Hi there, we have the amazing Dr Mine Conkbayir with us today, and Mine is one of the leading experts in the field of neuroscience in early years, and she is one of my particular favourites, and I'm so excited that she's found some time to come and have a chat with us today, so welcome.
Thank you very much for having me and my puppy in the background with a squeaky toy.
I think you have puppy, child, squeaky toy, just about everything going on in the background.
That's right. Literally, as soon as you pressed record and we thought we confiscated all the squeaky toys, like
There'll be a parcel delivery or the postman in a minute.
It will be.
Yeah, definitely. And that's, you know, I mean, that's the world we're living in at the moment, isn't it? It's just everything's a little bit sort of out there and chaotic, and we're sort of having to manage that.
Yeah, we're in here trapped.
We are trapped. So you are going to sort of just explain for us a little bit. I use the term self-regulation a lot. You and I are both absolutely passionate about children from a very young age being aware enough of their brains and bodies and how those things work together to create the feels, to create emotions, where they come from. And our work crosses over a lot, although yours is very much an earlier age group than mine. It ties together nicely, which is why, you know, I'm so passionate about it. But I think there's an awful lot of words and phrases that get thrown around that not everybody knows what they are, and they're hard to understand. And you and I are obviously part of a group of people who are working really hard to try and demystify a lot of this and make it an everyday conversation that we all get and we all understand. So one of those phrases is self-regulation. We hear that a lot, but what on earth, to someone that doesn't know anything about it at all, what on earth does that mean? How can I explain that? How can we get that across so it's easy for someone to grasp?
Very simply, self-regulation is our ability to manage our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, and our behavior, our actions. So it's I don't want to say our control, because self-regulation is what allows self-control to happen. And by that I mean, well, when we can regulate our thoughts, our emotions, and our behavior, then therefore we can exercise self-control, because just some of the skills that self-reg involves are things like curbing impulsive behaviors. So, you know, when you get an urge to go, oh, I must have that chocolate bar now, it's saying, no, you know what, I'm going to have that tomorrow when I've done a workout, for example. Or, oh, I really need to run away and do this now. No, or maybe it's better if I just listen to my teacher for the next 15 minutes and then that it's playtime. So it's being able to, you know, just say, wait, you know, it's thinking before we act, it's planning, it's curbing impulsive behaviors, like I said, it's knowing right from wrong, it's knowing how to concentrate, it's knowing what to ignore, so not getting easily distracted, you know, being able to take instructions from your teacher, for example. You know, it's also importantly knowing or being able to persist when you find things difficult, so that not giving up. Again, you know, a lot of children do find that challenging in our schools, especially children who have come from chaotic backgrounds, or there's a lot of, you know, issues going on in the home, like ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, and we've got children coming in that can't settle easily, you know, they can't regulate their thoughts, therefore their behaviors, and all of this, all these examples I've just said are self-reg. That's what self-reg is. It's knowing that, oh, I'm starting to feel a bit agitated, what can I do about it? That's a massive, you know, element of self-reg. It's not flying off the handle. And again, what I want to stress is, I'm going ahead of myself now, but I do want to get it in because I'll forget, because I've got a memory like a sieve, is that a lot of emphasis in our schools is about school readiness. Well, I have to get my child school ready. They have to be able to do this, their timetables, they have to know how to do that. And I'm like, wait a minute, but we've got it upside down, because if we put self-reg first, then all the school readiness kicks in, because we need to understand how the brain works, right? So you've got very simply a downstairs brain and an upstairs brain. Downstairs brain is all the self-reg stuff. So if our children are feeling safe, seen, soothed, they are able to cope with their own emotions and deal with, manage their own behavior, then all the upstairs brain stuff, the school readiness stuff, like getting on with your work, completing the tasks and achieving academically, then that will happen. You can't expect a child to be school ready if they cannot regulate their thoughts, feelings and behavior. And that's why a lot of our children at the moment are being failed in our schools, because the emphasis on all of the upstairs brain stuff, not thinking about the well-being. And you and I were just chatting about this before you hit record. It's about, you're prioritizing all the wrong things that you think are the right things to, because let's be honest, we're in a globally competitive education system. We have to look to China and Asia, they're top ranking, but then why don't you look in the UK and focus on the fact that we've got the most unhappy children in the world, according to time after time these pizza tables, right? It doesn't count because it's not easily quantifiable, right? Therefore, literally, well-being doesn't count. Well, how do you measure well-being? I know because my child is happy. I know because my child isn't anxious. I know because my child knows when they're starting to feel a bit wobbly inside and they can help themselves. I've got, practitioners that are using the self-reg as a result of my training across 50 odd settings. And I'm like, impact. How do you know self-reg is the way to go and that it's working? And this person says to me, I can give you so many examples, but the biggest thing for me, she said, is that they've more than halved referrals for SEND, right? Because these are the children who can't self-reg, who are being labelled as having ADHD or being defiant. No, they just haven't been shown that their well-being matters, right? That my brain and body get a bit jumbled and a bit stressed sometimes. So it's going to make me flip my lid. But you know what? I can stop myself because, Mina's taught me about going into my Zen zone, or going for a walk with an adult, or, using my fidget toys, or going into my corner, putting my noise cancelling headphones on to help regulate me. All these things are part of self-reg. And if we don't get it right with our children, then what happens? They come to you, don't they, Amanda, when they hit teenage years, and they still can't cope because no one ever said that their well-being matters. It's just, right, get on with that, pass that test, do that exam, fail, pass, fail, pass. Has anyone bothered to check how I'm feeling and what can be done to make me feel okay so that I can thrive? And, that's why, it's plastered all over my website. Self-regulation is the greatest gift we can give to our children. It helps us to make friends, to keep our friendships, to navigate romantic relationships. Everything and anything is about self-reg.
Yeah, no, and I agree completely. And it is massively missing. And you're right. I started out with my independent sort of practice journey because there was so many of these older children who fell through the cracks. They didn't qualify for an assessment, but they weren't prepared to go and speak to someone because they just didn't want to talk about it. And that's really how accidentally I got into the interest in the neuroscientific way of delivering, neuroeducation, delivering this information to kids. And it just got younger and younger and younger. And I had a young person some years ago. So when I wrote the first book, and I took it into, I've got a local secondary school I work with, and they have their on-site alternative provision. And I used to do a day or an afternoon there. And I would take this book down, and these older kids, they didn't want to engage, with interventions always. So what I said was, look, I've written this, tell me what's rubbish about it, because they can do that really, really well. They can tell you what's not good and what doesn't work well. So, I said, you come and help me. And really, it's, I did it in a maths lesson because, some of them are going to want to get out of maths. Not because they like you, because they just don't want to do maths, or whatever. And they would read it and they would say, I like this bit, I don't like that bit, I think little ones should know this. But more and more the conversation was, I wish I'd known this when I was little, wish I'd known this when I was younger. And one boy who refused, needed therapeutic support, had refused it for years, something he said has stayed with me, and I think it's really important. Who knew you could talk about your feelings without getting the ump?
Oh
And that
man.
sealed the deal for me. And
Oh,
that's when I was
massive.
determined to get those
Yeah.
books off and running, because
Yes.
he was 14, and then went on to work with other people. You
Oh,
know, and you know, I don't know where he is now. I don't know what he's doing now. He's much, much older, out there living his life. You know,
captured it perfectly, innit?
he did, and I am a very transient person with them. That the whole idea is that, you know, we share with them the science. We let them understand that A, it's okay to feel. B, it's the most normal thing in the world to feel. C, we need to have no shame about that, and help them remove some of the self-stigma, because they all say the same thing. They all say the same negative phrases about themselves.
That's been put into them by their parents and other adults around them, you know, and it becomes your internal dialogue from the earliest moment in life. And I think when we're talking about self-reg, like, you know, people like, you know, when does it start? It starts from conception. It's mum rubbing her tummy, having a chat with the baby, narrating her day, singing songs. That voice is soothing that unborn child. They come out, they're recognizing mum's voice already, or, you know, whichever parent is around as well, you know, and they come out and they're primed to understand, I'm all right, I'm going to be safe, this person's going to soothe me. But if then that baby is born to a mum who is chronically stressed, and you know, you've got cortisol, adrenaline swimming around that mum's brain and body, that child's cortisol level is already cranked up very high, that stress hormone. And you know, also if it's constant criticism and negativity, of course you're going to think, oh my God, I am what you say I am, right? And then you get that self-fulfilling prophecy of, oh no, well, you are, you know, I'm stupid, so I'll behave like that, you know. And we have to be so much more careful and respectful of what we are showing our young ones and what we are telling them, not only directly but also how we view ourselves and how we allow ourselves to be treated. And you know, this has lifelong implications, and it's very, very, very difficult to undo the older we get.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, we've gone round on this wheel for many, many years now, trying to find the right way of delivering this work in schools. It is hard to quantify. I think there was something that came out a few years ago, was how do you find happiness? There was like a happiness scale, and you can't. It's you know, you and I know the numbers. We've got a certain amount of neurons, a certain amount of neural pathways, and the amount of that, you know, potential of individuality far outweighs the amount of people there are on the planet. So you can never compare an individual subjective view, because you can never compare your view to anyone else, because it's never going to work. But we stick children in systems and structures and expect a similar outcome, and that can be really damaging for some children.
Damaging, it is damaging, you know, unequivocally for too many children. You know, it's a fitting off mentality, and we need to change that. And until we do move away from the grades being the be all and end all of school, you could say, yeah, of course it is, it's school. I'm like, no, but we're here to invest in our children's well-being. It's not just about outputs, you know, like sausage factory, and you know, you do this by the time, you know, let's be honest, we test them from 4 years old. I mean, it's inhumane, let alone pathetic and ridiculous. And you know, what can you expect from that kind of education system thereafter? You know, you're saying nothing about that child's well-being being the priority, and that's where we have to make the shift to very soon. And then what I always find myself saying, sadly, is if, you know, this global pandemic isn't enough to compel the likes of the DfE, the government and Ofsted to start changing priorities, then nothing's going to shift it. And we're only ever going to keep troubleshooting and pleading with individual teachers and practitioners to use their initiative, think outside the box, and think, you know what, I'm not doing this because it's harming my children. You know, we were talking before we hit record about, you know, now, for example, she's not the only one, but my daughter being subjected to 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Zoom lessons. We shouldn't be forcing the school into people's, you know, living rooms in lockdown, right? You shouldn't be telling them it's recommended that you wear a school uniform. Hell no, she ain't wearing a uniform. She's in her home. You know, there needs to be that division for them mentally, psychologically, to say, I'm safe here. There's no drama. There's no constant deadlines, because there's no let up, Amanda. You know, that's why I'm saying no. I'm saying no to it. She signs in the morning, and then we do whatever we want. We do art. We take her for a walk. You know, we take her lead. And I'm saying, waffling on, but I'm saying, if we can be more brave in our schools to take children's lead and work with what they are interested in and not conform to a narrow, crappy curriculum that isn't serving the majority. You know, if you're lucky enough to be able to self-reg, sit down, pay attention, follow instructions, don't challenge, don't be challenging, then you come out with some grades. So what? But you're still a adult at the end of it, because I'm one of those broken adults. There are millions of us walking this earth, and you just think, when you know, look back retrospectively and you think, I don't know how I survived.
No.
It's not an easy thing. It's not an easy, you know, terrain to traverse, our education system at the moment, and it's getting worse. And I think, you know, we need to make well-being the norm and the you know, compulsory, and not a nice little novel add-on. Yeah, I'm going to have a half an hour with Amanda at the end of the week. You know, like, it's frivolous. It has to be embedded, and we need to just a complete overhaul for every head teacher leadership team, the DFE, to get that if we do not start prioritizing our children's well-being and mental health within our schools especially, we are going to lose them very early on, you know. And then what do? We turn around and we blame them for societal ills because we never invested them in the first place, and they're fallen by the wayside. It's a nonsense, and it's a dangerous nonsense.
Yeah, and I agree completely. We were saying, so you shared a paper the other day that looked at some statistics about where we are with mental health, and how they accessed, what they accessed, and how the families felt about it. And for me, one thing that was really interesting is there was 88% of children said they didn't feel the need to look for a mental health service. However, 62% of the children said they had access support through school. But there was no breakdown of that data of what had happened in the school. And I find repeatedly that, you know, I pick up the ones that fall through the cracks. So I'm not replicating anything that's already out there. But we get a lot of services brought into schools that actually the schools are already doing sufficiently well. And they're doing it in terms of their own demographic, their own cohort, their own, you know, their own cultural areas. They're doing it to fit their kids. And then these other things come in, and they never really take off because they've come from outside.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, like you identified, if they're not capturing what's working and what isn't, how are you going to be making improvements on that? You know, that's what I'm saying. It's not given the respect, the regard that it urgently needs in order to make it something more substantial and meaningful for teachers and therefore for children. Because a lot of the children aren't able to even identify, I need help. And again, it goes back to self-reg. What does not feeling okay look like and feel like to you? You know, many children won't even know what you're going on about. This is what's happening inside, you know, like your books perfectly capture. And we need that needs to be almost a curriculum in itself. That needs to be standard in every home. I've got mine on my coffee table. I read it with my daughter. You know, we talk about the brain and how we start to feel when we're getting anxious or angry, you know, and it's simple things. You know, we do deep breathing together. As soon as she panics, go, I'm like, no. You know, we do it very slowly, gently together. Any technique to give our little ones that coping mechanism so that they don't flip their lid, because when they do enter panic, the panic makes them panic, you know, and then it manifests in all sorts of ways. And it's easy to prevent this from happening, but if we have the correct education, and I don't think we have the correct education in place.
No.
And until saying the same thing, sorry, it's like every day I've got meetings and I keep saying the same thing, unless the shift, you know, moves from academic outcomes and grades to mental health, we're going to keep fighting what I believe to be a losing battle.
It's difficult because you can't promote the self-regulation without it being an important on someone's agenda within education. So, you know, without that push, I mean, I know you work really hard, and you offer a fantastic training program for staff within early years, because as I feel, my program is delivered to teaching staff, and then they cascade it as a lesson within the school, but I make them do the program. So they have to have the lived experience of what the children are doing.
Absolutely.
And I know you do something very similar with your qualifications you do for early years practitioners.
Yeah, so I've got the self-reg one, and I've got the bigger neuroscience one, which looks at adverse childhood experiences, the impact of trauma, and the necessity of being trauma informed. And for each one, that the adult comes out as either a self-reg champion or a neuroscience champion, and exactly as you've identified with your training, they then have the responsibility to go into their setting and transform policy and practice, basically. So this is what Ursula Christet-Walton's done as part of Bertram Nursery Group. They were, their policies around behaviour weren't bad to start with, but they removed the name of behaviour management, and it's all self-reg policy, and it's infused everything they do, Amanda. It's absolutely beautiful. She's done children and families so proud, because now their shift isn't what's wrong with you, it's, well, how can we help you? And it's giving these children the strategies to say, so this is my brain, this is how it works, it's my body, this is what happens when I'm under stress or panicked or scared or overwhelmed. And children are now saying to their mums, here's a breathing star, mummy, I think you need it, because they're seeing the stress and what it looks like in themselves and their mums. That's a massive thing, Amanda, for a child to be able to identify stress in themselves and their parents. Wow. Because then you're helping each other, and you're not going to be a stressed out going, and you're entering some co-dysregulation, like basically a mutual meltdown, because you're at your end of your tether and your child isn't getting it, and what it's all of this. So it's just enabling practitioners to take the knowledge and give it meaning with the babies, with the children, with their team, and with the parents, because like we've been saying, you need the parents on board. We're not here to judge. We might be professionals in the setting, but we're parents behind closed doors. And my goodness, I have a meltdown every day. I feel like I can't cope every day. I lose it every day, so it's all very well preaching this stuff, but, putting it into action. We're human beings, right? We're fallible. And what we're saying is, get your parents on board. No one's here to be judged. They're having a difficult time at home. Get them in, have a coffee, have a chat about it. It's an education for everybody as a human being to take forward, so that we are able to cope with what life throws at us. My goodness, who would have thought in our lifetime we'd have to deal with a global pandemic? No. Self-reg is at the core of that. If we can't cope with our feelings and our emotions and behaviours, we aren't going to get through lockdown and everything else that's come our way. We're all depressed, we're stressed, money issues, school problems, a raft of problems that we can't cope with unless we have that ability to regulate ourselves first, and therefore our children. And our programs like yours and mine just do that. They give the practical support. They don't have to be a practitioner to do my training. I've got the self-regulation app as well, and that's just very much about parents looking at it going, all right, what strategy might work for me and my child today? Oh right, well, there's tapping, there's mindfulness, there's breathing, because we're all in it together. We've all got a brain and a mind and a body that need to be regulated. So if you and I, and the likes of you and I, can say, here's this, try this, or try that, that's fantastic. All I'm begging for is that the education system also understands it's important and starts embedding it in ways that are meaningful, not a bolted on 1 hour session that gets these children out of something that they would rather not be doing. So we have to keep on.
Keep pushing.
Yes, that's right. We do have to. We need to not shut up about it, basically.
Well, I don't think we do we?
No, we don't.
No, we don't. So that's all right.
Not shall we?
I don't know. No, I'm always soapboxing at someone, and you are right. And I mean, it's there are some good examples out there, but I mean we're a way off yet. And I do hope, if anything positive comes out of this, that's one of those things that maybe we can look at. Certainly for me, in terms of practice, I've gone from doing a lot of one-to-ones in school to a huge amount of family work online, and that has been joyful because we're having conversations with the whole family. We're doing the program with the whole family, and that is a bigger impact, definitely.
Then you need to think forward with that and think, right, well, I'm hopefully breaking anything that's intergenerational, right? You're getting in there and hopefully stopping any cycles from taking place, which a lot of abuse, trauma, that is generally intergenerational. Well, my mum did and her mum did, and now it's almost like a disease passed down to me. But we have strategies out there and interventions that working, going, no, I've got the scissors, gone. And it, you know, it can be straightforward if we dedicate the time and the resources to make it so.
And I think you know, it's okay to sit in a day that you know where you're stressed. It's okay that you're in a day where you know where you're sad. I think, you know, we are coming out of that stigma, but there's still such a lot of negativity and shame about feelings, people having feelings that they are not comfortable with, you know. And
that comes back to family, I believe, and it's a cultural thing as well. You know, like I remember my mum saying to me a while back, don't cry in front of your daughter, otherwise she will learn to cry. I'm like, shut up, of course I'm gonna cry, I'm upset, I'm bottling it, you know, what the hell is that about? So that, you know, some cultures do believe like, well, you know, it's like a disease, you're going to pass that down. And I'm thinking, what, the carnage you put me through as a child? I don't think so. You telling me what to do, what not to do.
You cope with a few tears.
Yeah, I think it's a healthy thing, but also, you know, when it's so important when they're feeling, for example, embarrassed, or, you know, oh, I didn't like that made me feel stupid, have a chat about it, reassure. One thing we must stop doing, and I think some adults do it, you know, naively thinking they're helping the child, but is dismissing it. Don't be silly, don't cry, don't, you know, toughen up, come on, no, it's nothing. I hate that. It's nothing. Obviously it's something to the child because it's brought them to tears. So instead of saying that, tell me about how you're feeling. Where are you feeling it? What made you feel that way? Not, oh, don't be stupid, that's another, don't be silly. Let's go and have a biscuit, let's go and play. No, focus on the child and what they're saying to you, because a lot of these children go back home where they're not listened to. Right, you know, the mums or dad's eyes don't light up when they see them after a long day at school. And we have to just think like, I do think like that, you know, I could be the one person that's showing you love today, and the time of day even, you know, I'm the one who's having a conversation with you. You getting this anywhere else? They might not be, because a lot of children sadly don't have that companionship at home, you know, Amanda, and they are the children that come into our settings who don't know how to seek companionship in ways that are healthy and pro-social, and they, you know, they do things to get attention, like push in and you know, getting on their peers' nerves, or in whatever way it is. And there are ways around this, and that is by modeling that companionship and giving them the companionship that they need to be able to understand, I am important, I am valuable, I am here, and I am worthy of companionship, and I can pass that on. But where children aren't given that, they're already at a disadvantage. And these are the children, trust me, that cannot self-reg. Like, it goes back to me saying, well, how do you make friends? How do you maintain friendships? How do you overcome conflict? It's all self-reg.
Yeah, and it's so important. And we will keep fighting the fight.
Absolutely, absolutely. We will.
And you have got your website as well, which is just AMAZING Dr Mine, and on the internet, and fantastic website with loads on it. But you have also got your fantastic app, Keep Your Cool Toolbox. So that is an app for Android. Is it on the app?
On Google Play. It's going to be on Apple soon in the next few weeks.
Excellent.
It's got 2 awards, which I'm really proud of, and people are feeding back that it works. And like us, it's got a little
range of things, hasn't it, that you can pick and choose little clips.
It's got as well an intro with me, and it's got a really brilliant, like 1 minute, that's all it is, or a minute and a half animation on the downstairs upstairs brain, which is what I've explained, and what happens when a child is triggered and they flip their lid. And that is vital for absolutely everyone to know. So there's that, and then there's the strategies that they can dip in and out of. There's a feedback form that they can say what worked, what didn't, what they'd like to see more of. So it's very much interactive. It's very much for our parents, carers and their children. And all the activities there are suitable for children with SEND as well, and some of the children in the videos, because they've all been sent in by parents and educators, you know, and some of those children have got SEND and it works for them. So I wanted to capture that and say, look, this works in helping these children down too. So do please check it out. It's free, man. Do you know what I mean? Why wouldn't you? just give it a go.
No, so head over to there. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for
it's
having
always
me.
joyful, and we managed to hold interview without swearing or misbehaving.
I'm so impressed. I spoke to a copper last night, and he said, you know, yeah, would love you on my podcast. And then the pause came. I was like, oh yeah, I know what's going on, but please don't swear. I'm like, oh, come on, man. I ain't got Tourette's, you know. Come on.
Are you sure?
So yeah, well done. No, I know it's true. They're like, I really think you have, you know. I'm like, no, I'm just passionate.
Oh, bless you. Right, well, anyone that wants to check you out, please check out. I'll put the links below as well when I upload it to YouTube. And
LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, the lot, find me.
All of the rest. Go and be a Minnow stalker like I am.
Yeah, go for it. Likewise.
All right, darling. Thank you. Take care.
Bye.